Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Bright Founders Talk at Temy. Temy is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast, where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. And each week, we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. I'm your host, Barry, and today we're joined by a remarkable guest, Antoine Carossio, who is CTO and co-founder of Escape. Hello, Antoine. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Barry. It's an honor being here today. Thank you for the invitation.
The pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate that. For anyone who doesn't know you or your company, could you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Oh, yeah. So very briefly, I'm Antoine Carossio. I'm 29. I started my company 5 years ago at the end of my studies. Just before that, I had a few internships in France and the United States on artificial intelligence. I was a former machine learning researcher at Apple, cybersecurity engineer for the French government. And so now, right after that, I decided to start Escape, my company. I have a fun story about it that I can tell later maybe, on how I decided to create Escape. I really wanted to go to the right side of the force. So now it's been almost 5 years I started the company with my co-founder, Tristan. We were like 25 in the company, and we really care about building quality softwares using state-of-the-art artificial intelligence for cybersecurity.
Thank you so much for telling me about that. Was it something that you knew you were going to do when you were younger? Did you think, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Okay. So that will help me introduce my story. So when I was really young, actually, at the age of 7, I guess, I started playing with the computer of my uncle. He's a photographer. He had a computer, and I started playing with the computer and really starting feeling a passion about computer. And so he was a creative because he's a photographer. On my end, I really started liking breaking things on the computer and hacking systems and bypassing stuff and everything. So a few years later, at the age of 14, I actually hacked into my high school computer system, and I had access to all the grades of everything, of all students. So that was pretty fun, but it happened. The computer school system was actually owned by a private company. So I got really in trouble at that age. And then I told myself I will never do computer science ever again. And at the same time, I was more and more passionate about Apple. The computers from my uncle was a Mac, and I was more and more passionate about Apple. And I was really interested and intrigued by Steve Jobs' motivational pitch about entrepreneurship and everything. So I started knowing I wanted to build my own thing. And when I did my internship at Apple, so almost 10 years later, it was like maybe 22 or something like this, I really realized I love Apple and I'm super happy as an intern, but I really want to focus more on computer science and build a computer science company. So this is what happened. So I started going back really strongly into computer science at that time. And then I met my co-founder in Berkeley, in California, and we started building Escape. And I really wanted to go to the right side of the force because, as I told earlier, I was really focused on breaking things. Now I wanted to making things better than when I was younger. So this is how we started Escape, and we were building software. They are still attacking software, but the goal is that we are building security testing software so that companies, they can attack themselves before potential hackers, like hats or whatever, can discover them, actually. They discover the vulnerabilities.
That's a really interesting story, isn't it? Starting off with a little bit of innocent criminality and developing yourself into a CTO. Not everyone has the same history, do they?
I don't think so. This is a really fun story, but yeah, I guess I'm a good guy. and when I was 14, I was just playing, like it was just a game for me. I really did not realize at that time that it was completely, it was that bad to break into the high school computer system.
So what was that the defining point, the exact moment where you thought, right, I want to set up this company called Escape?
when I was at Apple, I was really thinking more and more about creating a company. And when I've met my co-founder in Berkeley, Tristan, we started discussing with a lot of security professionals, and we saw there was an opportunity with a lot of legacy tools occupying the space. And we saw that the tech behind it was not really impressive. It was super legacy. And on the other side, you have more and more recent frameworks, more way of building applications and everything. So we say, hey, we should build more powerful tools. It relates to our form. So he has an experience too in all of this. So we should build something that produce qualitative results and that uses state-of-the-art techniques and algorithmics to find complex issues. And so we managed to combine a real business opportunity with a passion we already had. And this is when we knew we really wanted to create the company. It was a really early 2020, which in Berkeley. We were still students.
Did you have a lot of networking? Was networking important for you at that time?
Yes, actually, we were two French guys coming out of nowhere. So again, at that time we were still students. So we managed to hack a bit the system again because we were just presenting ourselves as students, conducting a research and everything. But when we went out of school, so at the end of 2020, we didn't have the student status anymore. And it was way harder to build a network at that time. And then COVID happened and everything. So yeah, networking, it's critical in this business, in cybersecurity. But I must admit that as someone coming from France, young student, you have no credibility, no street cred at all. So it was pretty tough, and especially during COVID. That's why in 2023, when COVID started to go down and the world started opening again, we managed to enter, we applied and managed to enter Y Combinator. And this is where we could again go back to the US and build back our network. And that's really important. Now to entertain this network, we're doing a lot of talks, a lot of conferences. We can meet our customers in person. So we start building credibility, but it took a lot of time compared to, for example, I know some Israeli entrepreneurs in cybersecurity that are coming out from specific units in the army, in the Israeli army. So they have a slight or a big advantage, I guess, when they start, for sure.
So let's talk, we've talked about before you started the company in the very early stages. Let's talk a bit about the beginnings of your journey. We did have a little talk off camera about scalability. So this might be an opportunity to discuss that very briefly now.
Yeah, okay. So that's really interesting because in 2023, we had, so after 3 years, we had a few customers. But when we entered Y Combinator, the mantra, the top mantra is make something people love. And the second one is build things that don't scale. And it happened that I'm really good at building things that don't scale. So building complex algorithms, solving problems where everyone tells you, hey, this is not possible to automate, and you manage to find heuristics or machine learning algorithms to solve those problems. So this is really, really important when you build a company, because this is how you manage to get MVP, see your customer, iterate with the customer. He makes you give feedback, and if you have to throw away everything you've built because it doesn't please the customer, it's okay, because you've spent maybe half a day or maybe 1 or 2 days building it really fast. So it was cool. So at the beginning of the company, we're building a lot of things that did not scale, and it happened that can become a problem actually at some point when you start having more and more customers that are large customers. Specifically at Escape, you're focusing on mid-market and above, so mid-market and enterprise customers. And here we started facing scalability issues, definitely.
And your other favorite topic over the scalability is algorithms. So you talked about how you're very passionate about algorithms. So talk to me a little bit about your enthusiasm, why it appeals so much to you.
There are multiple things for scalability. There is how can I say that, the architectural part, but I'm more talking about, the infrastructure part. So you have to build an infrastructure that scales. So here there are a lot of playbooks for that. But I'm not an expert about that, to be honest. On the other side, when you're a super deep tech company like Escape, you also have the algorithms you've built. The algorithms, they have what is called a complexity. Okay, so the algorithms, they run in a certain amount of time depending on the input they have. And it happens that you can have algorithms that produce the exact same output from the exact same input. But one has a really high complexity, and the other one is super optimized. So we started actually our scalability not by the infrastructure side, but by the algorithmic part. So you have to rebuild some algorithms to say, hey, here I am, and I really have some sub-optimizations in the algorithms. I'm doing 2 for loops while I could do something more, explore a tree or whatever, something smarter. And this is where we started scaling really the algorithmics. And this is really important because at Escape, we were really running complex algorithms. On the other hand, everything related to infrastructure, this is something, so I'm still talking only about the technical point of view here, but everything related to the infrastructure, I really started early understanding that I have some limits, and this is not my passion, and this is where we ended up hiring a head of engineering from Datadog with a lot of experience into building scalable systems. And this is where Matthew actually came in. By the way, he will be a super guest for a next interview for you.
You also mentioned to me like you're really, really hot and really, really interested in security.
Yep.
So, in the interest of keeping you passionate about what you want to talk about, how do you ensure like robust security, especially in like fast-moving development environments?
Yep. Okay, so that's really interesting. And that's the paradox, actually. It happens that most of the time, security is not the priority. So we are building super complex algorithms dedicated for enterprise customers so that they can test the security of their products when they build them. And at the same time, in our startup, we are using our own products we build to ensure there is no security issue. So we don't cover the whole stack. So we also use a lot of open source static analyzers and everything to ensure the security. So that's really interesting. But at Escape, we have a pretty great security culture when building stuff compared to other startups, I guess, because this is our DNA. And when it comes to building more scalable software, but still that are secure. So for larger companies, I also know the topics because this is what I'm basically building for them. You have to make sure you implement security layers on your whole, from code to cloud, if I can just summarize in a marketing way, but in in every single step of the software development lifecycle. So from the beginning, when you're writing code, you have VS Code extensions that can show you, hey, here, this is a dangerous pattern. You should change it by something else. Be careful of what you're doing. But on the other end of the development process, you have your application that is running in the cloud. And here you also must ensure that the application is secure by security testing, but also that it has a web application firewall, for example, in front of it, that this infrastructure layer underneath is also secure. So there are a lot of different layers of security. And this is, security concerns, obviously, they are scaling with the product and with the company.
So we also talked a little bit about AI. So where do you see the intersection of AI and back-end infrastructure making the biggest impact?
That's really interesting too. We're seeing plenty of things popping from everywhere right now. There are a lot of Y Combinator's company that are using AI for many things. I guess where it's particularly interesting in the case of Escape. So sorry, maybe it's not exactly your question, but I'm going to answer here. But in the case of Escape, what's really interesting is that when we started the company, we had to build some algorithmics and some algorithms or some machine learning models to some specific problems. So as a reminder, we're really trying to attack web applications to find vulnerabilities in them. And when the Gen AI started and LM started, a lot of those technical bricks here, they gain a huge, they made a huge quality surge by replacing them by some smart AI, Gen AI algorithms. So very quickly, we managed to cover use cases or to find vulnerabilities we thought we would never be able to find before, because I mean it really opened us a huge world of possibilities that were extremely flaky or complex to find before. Mm-hmm. So now we are building AI agents that were able to completely test, to automatically test applications at scales and finding complete business logic vulnerabilities. And this is where AI really changed the way we worked, I guess, at Escape, in the way of we're delivering products. And it's more scalable too. And this is really interesting too. You have to be careful with AI that was you're building is super scalable. And you cannot just have one LLM and you say, hey, just do it. You have to use it smartly, split your problems in very smaller problems, small tasks, define memory context to inject the right things at the right place. And so there is a whole new world of building scalable softwares that has opened here, that we play with that every day.
When you first started incorporating the AI, was it something that is it in line with your expectations or has it exceeded what you thought it could do?
I'm going to be honest, it has exceeded the expectations. But it happened in two steps. When ChatGPT 3.5 went out, like at the beginning of 2023, we really started using it. And there were two problems here. The models, they were less powerful and more expensive. Plus, we didn't really understand what I just explained before, that there is no magic. I mean, you still have to split your problems partly into architecture your software so that you have the AI that is taking, and each agent should take the responsibility of a small part of the problem. I think this is the key of building a software that works and that is scalable with AI. At the very beginning in 2023, we were like, just find all the problems and solve them all at once. This doesn't work. And 1 year later, so models were improving and were cheaper. Plus, on the other hand, we started understanding better how to build scalable AI agent softwares. And by splitting the problems in small parts, we really achieved incredible results that were largely expecting my expectations I had compared to the experience I had in 2023.
I suppose my question wasn't really that smart because it could be that you had very low expectations, in which case it would exceed them, wouldn't it? So I suppose did you have quite low expectations in the outset, or were you quite, because there is like the Terminator-esque vision of AI that some people have, where it will be the downfall, and some people are quite pragmatic about it. I suppose you fall into the pragmatist camp.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
So moving away from that and onto like more of your management style, management focus, because obviously when you have teams of people, it's very easy when you're a team of one or a team of two to be able to drive Absolutely. The company the way that you want it to go. How do you approach management in terms of like conflict resolution, especially like where technical opinions might differ?
Yeah. So this is really interesting because I was a junior, very junior, not that long ago, like 5 years ago too. I didn't have the chance to really, apart from the internships, I really didn't have a chance to work in a company for a long time. I think now what I realize is that the tech stack and everything, what really matters in the tech stack is that you like it as the founder, I would say. Because you're going to code a lot on it and you're going to implement a lot of structures at the beginning of the company with, I don't know, but rules, linting rules, formatting rules, code style, guidelines and everything. So what matters is that you like it, but also that it's not too niche. Because if you use a tech stack that is super niche, it starts getting hard to hire people that are trained on your tech stack and that can just take the responsibility over time so that you can delegate the code base and everything. And in terms of conflict solving, I think the first thing to do is to explicit the problems. Most of the time, the engineers, especially when they are young, but it can depend, they have strong opinions. They start debates and conflicting about things, but sometimes there is not even a problem. Like it's just a debate. We call that hot takes at Escape. So the hot takes debates. So in most cases, it should not even create a conflict because you should just go back to the facts, analyze the facts, and just take the decision with the facts and according to the real problem you're solving. So this is a so-called XYZ problem. So the engineers, they are debating something, but what is the real problem behind it they are trying to solve? And you have to, so there are various techniques to find the real problem, but the simplest one they everyone know is just asking why a couple of times until you find the real problem. It happens that this techniques works pretty well, even especially if you work with smart people, because at some point it just they face the real problem, so then you can enroll the reasoning, and if they are smart, they will very likely come to the same conclusions in the end without any conflict or without any arrogance or feelings. You see, they just, okay, that's true. That was a problem. We tried to solve it with deduction and reasoning, and we ended up with this conclusion. So this is, I mean, the engineers at Escape and the engineering culture at Escape is really around that, I guess. It's about the facts and the reasonings, and we have really rational people in the team at the moment, so it works pretty well. I hope it will be able to last as long as possible like this.
Long may it continue.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are coming towards the end. So just one final question, if you please.
Of course.
What advice would you give to like aspiring like co-founders or CTOs building their business for the first time?
I think the most important is being two things. You have to be super resilient because it's gonna last a long time. You have to know you will be engaged for at least 5 years, maybe 10, and you've done nothing in the first year, especially when this is your really first time. You will very likely spend your first 3-4 years doing nothing, and it's normal. You should be resilient to that. And at the same time, you should be resilient, but still you should learn from the customers and face the real problems. So if the customers, if they don't like the product, if they make feedback, you should listen to them. And as fast as possible, you build an MVP and you really show it to the customer, and you don't hide the problems, don't get blind about the issues. You have to face the problem again, and with deduction and also some feelings too at some point, it's going to work. Yeah, but there are a lot of iterations.
That's great advice. Antoine, I just want to thank you so much again for talking with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Barry. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
That was Antoine Carossio, CTO and co-founder of Escape.